We back at it again.
For the culture.
I'm a big fan of culture.
We're really high.
For the culture. My God.
Shout out to Culture.
For the Culture podcast.
Type.
Appreciate you for having me, man.
It's a pleasure to be here.
And welcome back to For the Culture podcast with your host, B. Man, I'm here with a childhood friend that I not only grew up with, went to school with, and, you know, boy, did we have some times on the playground. You know, we got the one and only Jeff McCray. How we doing tonight, Jeff?
I'm doing outstanding. Appreciate it. Thank
good.
you for having
This is
me.
the first time since the last time you and I saw one another that, you know, you without your twin.
Yeah, Jamaica. Shout out to Jamaica.
Oh, man. Those two was something else. They had their own language. You know, when we went to Carver Elementary, which unfortunately George Washington Carver Elementary is no longer in existence. They actually had Bill Gaston Middle School there. Right. And so, I mean, was that sometimes? I mean, you talking about the show Living with Chris. We experienced it. Yeah, we experienced it. I think we literally crawled to school because we didn't learn to walk till we got to about junior high, right? Every time we had to hit the ground. If it wasn't an earthquake warning, you know, it was something else going on. But, you know, that's the environment that both Jeff and I, you know, have come from. And now here we are, you know, 30-some years later, here on For the Culture podcast. But it's good to see you, baby.
Likewise.
Appreciate you coming on. So, you know what, Jeff, you got to tell me, I know we went to school together, but I don't think I ever asked what zip code you came from.
Of course, originally from 93706, but my mom moved us to the east side, and so ended up being 93727.
Oh, man, ain't nothing wrong with it. Still south side. You just went a little on the east.
Southeast Fresno.
Man, that'll work. But you was on that 93706 for quite some time, though.
Absolutely.
Man,
yeah. I went to Kurt.
That's right.
Carver.
Right.
Went to Ainsworth for a little bit on the east side, and then came back to, you know, Carver, then Edison High School.
Right. Man, where we all reunited again.
Yes, sir.
Man, so, you know, it's been a while, Jeff. So, you know, as the audience is listening to us today, you know, tell us a little bit about Jeffrey.
Jeffrey McCray, 23-year law enforcement professional.
Okay.
Been married for 24 years, have 2 beautiful children. I'm using my pain and turning it to purpose.
Yes,
now,
sir.
You know.
Yes, sir.
And being a voice for the voiceless and speaking out and telling the truth about various matters.
Right. Man, that's, you know, for those that are getting to know Jeff, you know, growing up as children, you know, Jeff always had a heart of standing up to bullies, those that, you know, picked on the voiceless, the unwilling. And, you know, Jeff and his sister, you know, they didn't have a problem, you know, putting those knuckles up, especially when it was for righteous reasons. And so, you know, here we are, man, knowing that, you know, that still plays a big part of you, and you know, righteousness is a big part of your life and continue to be. You know, has a husband, a father, entrepreneur, you know, and now an author. You know, how did you balance protecting your peace while carrying the weight of the stories you experienced?
It was very difficult, very difficult. A lot of people say, oh, I don't bring my challenges from work home. You know, it's all I leave it at the door, but you know, oftentimes that's a lie because we're not robots. So a lot of that stuff bleed over into our personal lives. And so I think my spiritual foundation helped me keep me balanced, helped keep me focused on the family and the things we need to do. Like being married, my wife helping keep me balanced. Right. My kids trying to be a decent example for them. And so, but it's a challenge, man.
Yes,
it's
sir.
It's a challenge. And so
Yes,
that's
sir.
something that I work towards every day.
Right. Well, we definitely want to give a shout out to your wife, you know, your beautiful family, you know, for being that balance of your scale, you know, as you go in and out each and every day. Now, you done came out with a very empowering book, you know, Penitentiary Chances, you know, touches on racism in the prison system. And what moment in your career made you realize this story had to be told publicly?
I think everything came into ahead a few years back. You know, as I suffered so much injustice, so much oppression, so many different negative things, I said, you know what? I need to stop being silent and talk about this because there's so many people who's going through it, but they're afraid. They're afraid to even, speak out. So I said, you know what? Let me go ahead and put pen to paper and talk about this, and even, begin speaking, along with writing, I begin to speak and talk about it because people want to know, like, what's going on. That's one of the hottest topics. Like when I'm at, gatherings and stuff, people, what's going on in the prison? What's going on? What's happening? And so seems like I'm always talking about it anyway. So let me go ahead and, share some positive truths along with some of the negativity. You know.
Man, even as a kid, you was always big on journalism, and it seemed that you carried that on. And so I take it that your memoir is an accumulation of you actually writing out your experiences, your frustration, and, helping you to get through it as you go in and out of what is considered to be, war territory.
Yeah. Yeah. I've always been a writer. I've always read a lot of books. My mom was big on, hey, turn the TV off. Let's read, And so we kind of hated it, but now it's turned into something that I actually love.
Yes, sir.
And I love writing, so that's what I try to share my gift with the world, through writing.
Right.
I feel like this book was something I can share with people to empower them.
Yes.
My story of resilience help to encourage other people who are, underdogs to say, hey, just keep at it and you can succeed. That's what I dedicated the book to. I dedicated the book to
Right.
to the underdog in all of us.
Yes, yes. I mean, there's quite a few series that have recently came out that actually is focused on, the penitentiary system, how the inner workings, who's actually running it and who's not, and who's the puppets and puppeteers, within the system, which is, quite interesting, that has gained a lot of, viewers and watching, from the outside. Um, and, your book seems to speak to some of these series that are out today and what's going on. I mean, the timing of it. After spending 21 years in law enforcement, what were some of the mental and emotional battles you faced behind the badge?
Yeah, so that it came with a lot of emotional strain. Just the job itself, dealing with all the things that first responders got to deal with,
Yes.
especially in my field, dealing with riots and people getting stabbed, and dealing with sexual assault and staff assaults and everything that come with. That's a lot. That's a lot to carry. And to be able to try to enforce these rules on this population of people who really don't like following rules to begin with. That's why they're here in the first place. But
That explains, why it's called Department of Correction. So pretty much it's like you're hired to correct a behavior that led to them getting incarcerated.
right,
To of course reverse that. So therefore, depending on the term, the length of their prison time, they're able to come back into, life, reality, being corrected and understanding structure.
right. Supposed to be a changed man. Supposed to be rehabilitated.
There you go.
That's the
But
that's
that's
political
not
word.
happening.
Yeah.
Understood. Let's talk about you. There's an event. It's called Banned and Unplugged. What does that title represents to you, and the message you want people to leave with?
Well, banned and unplugged. Of course, it's talking about my book. My book was actually banned by the California prison system uh, because it's based on a true story, and I touch on so many different things. And they usually allow inmates to purchase any book they want from Amazon, but if they deem the book a threat to the safety and security of the institution, and they'll go ahead and ban it and say, you guys can't read this. They don't want you to consume this content. And so that's where the title come from, because it was actually banned. And so, but the information contained in the book, it doesn't really, it's not a threat to anybody, but it's a threat to the system as far as exposing the truth, exposing corruption, exposing a lot of negative things that's going on inside there, you know. So, but the event itself is a celebration because I never had a book release party. I never had a book signing event. I never did anything publicly where I invited family and friends and the public to come and say, "Hey, this is what I did. This is my product. You know, come consume it. Let me share this with you and share the message." So that's what we're doing coming up
Okay.
pretty soon
Oh,
with our event.
and what do you hope people from Fresno and beyond to take away after hearing your testimony?
I want to bring some awareness, like to what's going on. Like I said, a lot of people are very, they want to shy away from giving their testimony, especially when they are victims of, especially victim from a system that's just, it's almost like going up against Goliath, you know. And so I want people to know that it is important to stand up. It is important to say, you know what, this is not right. Even if you're standing up against a giant, you know, like I am. And so that's what the event pretty much symbolizes. And I want people to know that no matter how small they are, no matter who they are, their voice still should be heard.
No, totally understandable. And for people who feel silenced, overlooked, or stuck in difficult systems, as you just spoke of, what advice will you give them about turning pain into purpose?
I feel like people should discuss some of the embarrassing, some of the things that's traumatic, some of the things that's negative that happen to our lives, because then we give other people permission to discuss those same things. A lot of people feel like they're alone or it's too embarrassing to talk about. So it's very important for these people to tell their story. It's very important to normalize talking about our traumas and getting it out there so that we can begin the healing process.
No, totally. And what would you recommend as being a solution, to the challenges that many face that have been shared in the memoir?
Um, some solutions is, of course, people they have to want to change, you know, and that's as far as the system in itself, and also the incarcerated that the system house. You know, they have a responsibility upon themselves to say, hey, I want to change my life to go this route. And sometimes the system have to acknowledge the fact that, hey, we're wrong here, and we need to fix this. You know, because a lot of times once the system doesn't fix the issues, um, based upon their own rules and regulations, their own policies, now they have to right those wrongs monetarily, financially. That's where the lawsuits come in at. And over the course of me doing this for about 23 years, I've seen a lot of that. You know, and sometimes the only time that people wants to change what they're doing is if you hit them in their pocketbook. You know, because a lot of people are not just taking it upon themselves and say, you know what, this is wrong. Let me do this the right way. It's not, because a lot of people who have power, privilege, influence, they feel like they can do whatever they want to do and get away with it.
Unfortunately. Um, and so, Jeff, I want you to, as people are watching and listening to us, if you can share about the upcoming event, the date, time, location, and what are people expecting to, receive by attending.
We're having a Mad and Unplugged R&B night this Saturday, May the 30th at the Rose, and it should be an evening of it should be an educational evening as well as fun, entertainment. We're gonna talk about some stuff. I'm gonna try to encourage the audience. We're gonna have some laughs. We're gonna have some fun. Most importantly, I'm gonna be promoting my book, Penitentiary Chances, and hopefully the contents and my story of resilience can encourage other people to be resilient in their own story.
And there you have it. Jeffrey McCray, author, father, husband, and a man that stands on principle. You know, come meet him in person at his book signing this Saturday, May 30th, at the Rose, starting at 6 p.m. Is that correct, Jeff? 6 p.m. Be there so you could become aware. Looking forward to seeing you.